I'm having a meeting. Looking, I'll go inside.
Mic test. Okay, recording. Good morning to everyone in the USA. Good afternoon to those in Europe, and good evening to those in Asia. I hope you are all doing well and safe in these tough and challenging times. We would like to thank you all for spending your weekend here with us. Today, the 5th of June, as we celebrate the World Environment Day, which is United Nations annual observance of spreading global awareness and action to protect our environment, several organizations, including the Asian Institute of Technology, International Water Management Institute, CGIAR Research Program on Water, Land, and Ecosystems, and the Institute of Engineering of Tribhuvan University are jointly organizing a book launching webinar. The book, as you all might have heard, is entitled Water, Climate Change, and Sustainability, is just published by Wiley. We are fortunate enough to have the editors, chapter lead authors, and some of the prominent individuals working in the water sector here with us today. I am Kim, a water engineering and management master's student here in AIT, and I am honored to be your MC for today. Before we formally start the event, I would like to announce a few reminders. First of all, the event is being recorded and will be uploaded in WEM's official YouTube page and is also now being streamed via Facebook Live. Second, I'm requesting everyone, other than the speakers, to please mute your microphones. And lastly, feel free to type in any queries that you have in relation to this book launching event on the Zoom chat box. Thank you all. So without further ado, let us officially start this event with welcome remarks from the President of the Asian Institute of Technology. Let us welcome Dr. Eden Un.
Hello, everybody. Distinguished guests and participants, happy World Environment Day. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this very important and meaningful event. That is the book launching webinar of the book Water, Climate Change, and Sustainability. And this webinar is jointly organized by Asian Institute of Technology, AIT, the International Water Management Institute, CGIAR Research Program on Water, Land, and Ecosystems, WLE, and the Institute of Engineering of Tribhuvan University to commemorate the World Environment Day. Water is at the core of sustainable development. It is critical for socio-economic development, healthy ecosystems, and for human survival itself. However, it is evident that climate change, together with rapid population growth, land use changes, rapid urbanization, pollution, and damming of rivers, threaten the sustainability of water resources and consequently sustainable development. Understanding the connection between water, climate change, and sustainability is vital to achieve the global water security. I'm happy to see this book, Water, Climate Change, and Sustainability, as a very timely publication and one of the invaluable resources for policymakers, water managers, researchers, and other professionals who are working on water and related issues. I want to offer my congratulations to all the editors and authors of this book. Water, climate change, and sustainability are actually at the heart of AIT. It is reflected by our education, our research, and outreach since our founding in 1959. Water program, in fact, is the first program established at AIT. We're offering several education programs and conducting cross-cutting research now on climate change, mitigation, and adaptation in the Asia-Pacific region and beyond. Just a month ago, 2 of our professors are named in the Reuters hot list that identified and ranked 1,000 climate academics according to how influential they are. AIT is currently ranked 15th in the world in the prestigious Times Higher Education Impact Ranking of 2021 for our work to end poverty, in line with the UN Sustainable Development Goal SDG 1, no poverty. Our work on 4 other SDGs also position AIT in the global top 100. The THE Impact Rankings measure how universities worldwide are performing against the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. I'm very much interested to learn from the keynote speech coming up of Professor Stefan, the water, food, climate change nexus to support sustainability. AIT has collaborated with him in several occasions, and we're looking forward to continue our collaboration with IWMI. I'm also glad to see several prominent persons, Professor Joshi from Tribhuvan University, Nepal, our old friend, Dr. Beno from UNESCO, Dr. Chinus from SEI Asia, Dr. Roshan from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and Dr. Linda from the Asian Pacific Network for Global Change Research, APN, delivering special remarks. AIT values the continuing, ongoing collaboration with you all. I also take this opportunity to express my wish to collaborate with you and your institutions in developing further joint academic programs and projects in AIT's 5 thematic focus research areas, namely climate change, smart communities, food, energy, water security, infrastructure, and technology, policy, and society. Once again, I welcome all of you to this book launching webinar and wish you good learning, fruitful discussion, and networking. Please stay healthy and safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Un. And now, to deliver the keynote speech entitled The Water, Food, Climate Change Nexus to Support Sustainability, please allow me to introduce to you our speaker, Professor Stefan Uhlenbrook. Professor Stefan Uhlenbrook is the Program Director for the CGIAR Research Program on Water, Land, and Ecosystems, or WLE, and is an ex-officio member of the WLE Steering Committee. He is also the Strategic Program Director of Water, Food, and Ecosystems for the International Water Management Institute, or IWMI. Professor Uhlenbrook's expertise includes water resources, hydrological processes, agricultural water management, global change, sustainability, sustainable development goals, nature-based solutions, ecosystems, achieving outcomes for sustainable development, and leadership of multidisciplinary teams, bridging science, practice, and policy. He was formerly coordinator of the UNESCO World Water Assessment Program, or WWAP, and director of UNESCO Program Office on Global Water Assessment in Perugia, Italy, and the deputy director and officer in charge or acting director of UNESCO IHE Institute for Water Education, now IHE Delft, in Delft, Netherlands. Please welcome Professor Stefan Uhlenbrook.
Thank you very much. My distinct pleasure. May I share my screen? Good. Thank you so much for the nice invitation, President Von, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure. I wish I would be with you in Bangkok today at AIT, where I've been many times, but unfortunately, due to COVID, this is not possible. Or in Nepal, where the first author of that book comes from Tribhuvan University, which would have been been there only once, but it was a distinct pleasure. So, and when my colleagues, Vishu, Professor Shashidhar, and also Dr. Weiberg invited me to give this little talk, and I was immediately saying yes, because I was a bit hoping that it's actually possible to travel, but of course this is impossible during these days. Let me introduce the topic of this seminar today and just share a few insights around the topic of water sustainability and climate change. I'm working at IWMI, the International Water Management Institute, and we are based in Sri Lanka. Actually, I was 1 hour too early in the call today because I had a problem with the time zones. It's always confusing with summertime, wintertime, etc. But I'm based here in Colombo in Sri Lanka and looking forward to fly to Europe tonight. IWMI has different offices around the world, and the majority of our efforts go to work in Africa and Asia or in the Middle East. The vision is that we would like to contribute to a water secure world, and therefore we would like to find water solutions for sustainable climate resilient development. And you can see the mission of the Institute very well fits to the title of the book. And we do that through transformative research for development. Just one more slide to introduce briefly the topic, the work of the Institute, IWMI, where I'm happy to work on is we have these basically three strategic programs. One is called Water, Food and Ecosystems, which fits very well to the AIT mandate as well. And I'm the director of that strategic program. Furthermore, we have one on climate change and resilience, where we also work, and I was pleased to hear how impactful the research of the AIT colleagues is, and I'm sure also the colleagues in Nepal are contributing chiefly to this topic. And the last one is on water and growth and inclusion, which also fits well to the research agenda of the two other academic institutions. Furthermore, we have a cross-cutting theme on water and digital innovation, which is not a strategic program, but very much a cross-cutting theme where we develop models, etc. And actually, Dr. Weiberg, very recently, was one of the leaders of that program. That was enough on IWMI, and I just would like to use the time now to introduce briefly the topic of the book. And I would like to start with poverty. I know it's not one of the titles of the book, but I would like to remind all of us there has been tremendous impact on poverty. You see that over the last 30 years or so. Always the percentage were going down, and also the absolute numbers were going down despite population growth. But very recently, we have an increase in poverty again, and that's due to the COVID crisis that we all experience at the moment. And it's not only the poverty, it's also the impact on food insecurity. And you see here in Africa, before COVID, we have been observing already an increase of the number of moderately or severely food insecure people. In Asia as well, but less, but the Asian population is much larger. But if you now look at the impact of COVID, it is predicted to increase quite rapidly. By the end of 2020, it was about 700 million people were undernourished, and it is predicted, these predictions are 5 months old, it might be better models nowadays, that this number unfortunately will increase by another 200 million people. Hungry people, 200 million more, can you imagine, because of the economic crisis due to COVID. So it's not only the impact of the terrible pandemic itself, it's also the economic downturn, which really hits particularly the developing countries and countries in transition, but mainly the low-income countries, of course. Food and agriculture needs to be secure and stable and robust, and the resilience of the food system is something we are working on very much at the moment. But I would also like to remind us that the food system requires roughly 70% of all the global water withdrawals. That shows how absolutely important water is for the food system. Furthermore, the food system, while being so important, it is emitting about 26% of all the greenhouse gases. So if we are able to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the food systems and make it a more zero greenhouse gas sector, that would have chiefly impacts also on our endeavor to have to reduce climate change. Where do these greenhouse gases actually come from? From the food sector is what I found on this figure. And you see that a lot of the greenhouse gases are actually related to the meat and dairy consumption, livestock, fisheries, but also the fodder production, which is quite significant. Here it says 26%, but there was just a Nature paper a few months ago, which demonstrated it's actually more than 30% if you also include the greenhouse gas emission that come from the electricity consumption of the irrigation sector. Mind you that in countries like India, it can be up to 1/4 of the total electricity consumption going into the agricultural sector, largely for pumping water to irrigate the fields, which is very important for food and nutrition security. But on the other hand, it has significant impacts on the electricity, on the greenhouse gas emission and energy security overall. So therefore, smart solutions developed by AIT and others are very important to make some progress along these lines. That brings us to climate change, because the greenhouse gas emission is responsible for global warming. I think we heard that many times. And just one example, this is a figure, one of these global maps on climate change, and this shows the mean annual runoff. As a hydrologist, I need to say, well, it's not about the mean annual runoff that is so important. It's about the extremes. It's either about floods or droughts and how they change statistically. But what you see here, for instance, for Southern Africa, is that some predictions show an increase, some a decrease of mean annual runoff. But some parts of this are actually very dry. So changes in the mean are maybe not so clear. And this is the result of, I think, 12 models as an ensemble prediction that are then averaged. So it's a relatively robust estimate. But it's not only the mean runoff, which is so important. What we see on the next figure is for the same region, you see this is the number of dry days, the frequency of dry days. And therefore, the change of the frequency and the severity of dry days can have major impacts. If you have a changed frequency in the dry days, particularly during the agricultural period, that can really cause a failure of the harvest if we don't have irrigation or other measures in place. So therefore, the changes of these extremes are probably much more important than just the mean annual runoff, which a lot of the climate models focus on. So I started my presentation with COVID today, and by no way I would like to marginalize the tremendous impact COVID has, but I also would like to make the statement that it is the economic downturn, the recession, which has major impact on society, and then furthermore climate change, which is linked to that more indirectly, but from the wave is here in this cartoon even larger, and I believe that is actually true. It will hit society or continuously hit us and the sustainability of the earth at a much larger scale. So while a lot of attention is at the moment on the COVID recovery, which is important, we have to keep in mind that we build forward better in a more climate resilient way. Second, third challenge I would like to speak today is briefly about the water agriculture development ecosystem health nexus. What you see on this figure is demonstrating over the last decades how the human impact has been increasing on Earth. And you see here the productivity has been increased quite significantly, but at the same time, the fresh water withdrawals have increased. So we are using more and more water. And as I said before, about 70% of that water actually goes to the agricultural sector. It's largely for irrigation water. So we are increasing our water footprint, and we largely use that for irrigation. At the same time, on the right-hand side, you see how that causes or is linked to a decline of the ecosystem's health parameters, like the terrestrial vertebrates or freshwater vertebrates, or the wetland decline. And the wetland decline has been much more rapid than, for instance, the deforestation. Maybe it didn't receive the same international media coverage, but it is a very severe impact. Finally, I would like to just speak about 2 or 3 solutions, which also link directly to the book of our 3 authors today. And the first is that we have to intensify and produce more food in a more sustainable way. So we talk about sustainable agricultural intensification, and there's well scope for that. You know, you see this in the lower figure. You see that the average yield, for instance, for maize can be 1.5 tons roughly in low-income country, and about 9 tons per hectare in high-income country. Similar, not as drastic, but easily a doubling of the yields when you compare low-income yields for rice compared to high-income countries. So there is ways to increase the agriculture output, but we have to do that sustainable for the regions which I mentioned before. And we have to can do that through, for instance, better economic practices, better land management, or better, more drought-resistant or salt-tolerant seeds, agroecological methods, etc., etc. There's quite a number of possibilities on which our research is working on. But I would like to speak today, as I'm a hydrologist, I would like to speak about water management, which can also be absolutely critical. And as we said before, it's about 70% globally going into irrigation. Mind you that in some of the agrarian economies, like countries like Uzbekistan, etc., it can be as much as 90% and more that goes to the agricultural sector. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily wrong. Actually, I believe that more irrigation can be part of the solution. You see here the increase of irrigation, which largely happened actually in high-income countries. So there's a lot to catch up in lower-income countries. In sub-Saharan Africa, for instance, it's less than 5% of the agricultural area that is actually irrigated. And at least supplementary irrigation can really make the difference between a poor harvest or no harvest at all and food security and nutrition security. So irrigation is part of the solution. But on the other hand, we have to do that in a sustainable way when it comes to water. And then one of the solutions which I would like to mention, I'm coming to the end of my talk, is considering groundwater management better in that equation. You see here a map where some colleagues mapped the uncommitted groundwater potential, the irrigation potential for groundwater. And you can see that there are some areas in Africa where there are still opportunities to further develop in a sustainable way the irrigation with groundwater for the benefits of the people as well as the environment. So there's some potential. However, sometimes we need to manage groundwater, and then we can even expand on this map before. And things like managed aquifer recharge can be one of the key solutions to increase food security while at the same time not jeopardizing our water resources and stay sustainable. And the last part what I would like to mention today, and that's a recent research we have been doing at the International Water Management, it's water storage. Too often in the past, water storage discussion was dominated by gray infrastructure storage, big dams, and so which are costly, not only costly from the investment part of view, but also costly from an environmental and social point of view. But there's maybe other ways of storing water in the environment, and there's so-called green infrastructure solutions, so wetland, forests, groundwater, soil water, etc., where also water storage need can be satisfied. And in a publication that we launched just 2-3 months ago, we were analyzing that growing water storage gap. So that's what you see here. We have storage needs of society, and these needs are increasing. And we have the current storage availability, and what we can predict for the future, that we have an even increasing storage demand of society because of climate change, because of sedimentation in reservoirs, because of erosion and degradation of ecosystems. So we have less and less storage available, but an increasing demand. So ladies and gentlemen, let me close. And again, I wish I would be today with you in Bangkok at AIT and catching up with my colleagues, Professor Shashidhar, Professor Babel and others, or with the colleagues in Tribhuvan University in Nepal. And these are key partners. And from IWMI side, I would like to mention that we would like to strengthen the partnership also with your organizations. And we would like to do that, and this is my last slide, along a nexus thinking, because what we believe, or at least I can say I believe in, is that we need to develop our resources in a much more systems approach, where we consider system dynamics between human social systems as well as biophysical or natural systems. We need to understand the WEF nexus, also it's the water, energy, food, and ecosystems nexus, or the interdependencies between the different systems, and develop these resources overall in a sustainable way. And that's what we are working on. We are currently designing a major research program for that, and we hope for partnerships with the colleagues who published these books. And congratulations again. I know it's a lot of effort to put such a book together. And I would like to thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the event. Thank you so much. Over.
Thank you very much, Professor Uhlenbrook, for those insightful remarks. Now we can take a few questions for Professor Uhlenbrook, a maximum of 2 questions from our Zoom participants. So if you have any questions, kindly raise your hand. Okay.
Maybe it's easier when I'm next time in Bangkok to give a guest lecture, and then we can have more discussions.
It seems like there are no questions, so let's move on. So before the next session, I would like to request everyone to please open your video so that we could have a photo session. So please kindly look at your cameras and smile. Again, okay, let us screenshot this. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, the next. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think we're okay. Now, let us move on to the next session. I would now like to invite the editors to give us a brief introduction of the book. First, I would like to invite Professor Vishnu Prasad Pandey. He is a professor of water resources in the Department of Civil Engineering in Institute of Engineering, Tribhuvan University in Nepal. Let us welcome Professor Vishnu Prasad Pandey.
Thank you, Kim. Hello to everyone. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, depending upon time zone. You know, there are global concerns on sustainability in general and achieving SDGs in particular. To contribute in achieving sustainable development goals through knowledge generation, we came up with an idea of developing a book focusing on water, climate change, and sustainability, 3 key issues that the entire globe is facing today. Accordingly, we prepared a proposal and submitted to Wiley back in January 2018. After several rounds of review and revisions, the process was finally accepted in September 2018, after 9 months, same time as giving birth a baby. We 3 editors then reached out to prospective authors across the globe with already thought of and structured contents. We also circulated widely through our networks a call for book chapters. In response to the call and headhunting, 31 chapters were submitted in line with our thought or structured contents. However, after a peer review process, only 16 chapters finally survived to include in this book, which was released recently. The selected chapters were developed by authors in close consultation with the editors. There was extensive peer review process to ensure the quality of the contents. Initially, we asked for the 0 draft from the authors, and 0 and the first drafts were initially reviewed by the editors to ensure that the contents are streamlined according to our thought. in terms of overall content coverage in the books. 5 chapters were rejected right after zero draft. Then the selected chapters were carried out peer review through by at least 2 independent peer reviewers. After multiple rounds of revision and the review process by authors, by taking significant amount of time, thank you so much to all of them, the book was finally ready for submission to the publisher. We used the editorial management system provided by the publisher for performing the peer review. Finally, 16 chapters were submitted to the publisher back in August 2020. Finally, with a high level of continuous engagement of over 3 years, it's quite a long time, from authors, editors, reviewers, and publishers, the book was finally released in late March 2021. We take this opportunity to extend our sincere thanks to all the concerns for their contribution in this process, especially authors who bear with us for a long period of 3 years, and all of them are joining today, fortunately. So first time meeting with them, though virtually. And a special thanks to Dr. Ritu Bose from the Wiley for her continuous guidance and support. Happy World Environment Day, and may our earth live long. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Pandey. Now I would like to invite Professor Sangam Shrestha. He is a professor and the program chair in the Water Engineering and Management program, and also the head of the Department of Civil and Infrastructure Engineering in the Asian Institute of Technology. Please, Professor Sangam.
Thank you, Kim. Happy World Environment Day to everyone. I'm really very happy to see all of you. Actually, we have been communicating almost 3 years, and then this book on water, climate change, and sustainability is published. And I really would like to express my thanks to all of the authors. I will very briefly introduce these 3 sections and a few chapters of the book. Actually, we will be hearing the contents of the book from the authors themselves. But just to summarize, there are 3 sections in this book, and one of the sections is called Sustainability Concept. And there are 4 chapters in this section, and the section mainly, describe the linkages between the sustainability and water resources use. There is another section called Sustainability Approaches, Tools and Techniques, and it consists of the 6 chapters. And this section mainly highlights the importance of the development and use of new approaches, tools and techniques for measuring and reporting its effectiveness in water resources development and management. And we have section 3, which is called Sustainability in Practice. And this section has 6 chapters. And this section displays the case studies to implement sustainability concepts in various water use sectors. And these are at different spatial scale and also the temporal scale. The book is the result of excellent collaboration among 49 global authors. It's really very impressive to see the contribution from the 49 global authors. We have, gender equality, 18 female authors and 31 male authors. And I would like to say that at least like 4 chapters are led by the female authors. And the author represents various organizations. They are from the academia, they are from the governmental agencies, NGOs, and international organizations, and also from the private sector like industries. The authors belongs to at least 11 countries, namely India, Japan, Nepal, Netherlands, New Zealand, Nigeria, Pakistan, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and USA. So with this brief introduction, again, I would like to thank all the authors for your contribution to make this publication successful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sangam. Last but not the least, I would like to welcome Dr. David Weiberg. He is a leader in the Hydroinformatics Group in the International Water Management Institute, or IWMI, Colombo, Sri Lanka. Let us welcome Dr. David Weiberg.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Happy Environment Day. In Sri Lanka here, we are struggling with a potential environmental disaster in the form of a container ship that has been burning offshore. So we hope they'll be able to get that under containment. I will continue with Professor Shashidhar. Description of the book content. I'm going to start by using 3 topics in the title of the book. Water management. As you've heard, water management is a multi-scale and multi-sectoral challenge. Sustainability. Have we ever used our resources sustainably? Arguably not, I would say. And add to that, climate change is one of the greatest challenges of our time, partly because it is not only a challenge for our time, but also the generation that comes after us and many more. In management theory, these problems are called wicked problems, problems that have high uncertainties and don't have clear stopping conditions. So in other words, we can never conclusively say, okay, the problem is solved once we've achieved this. There is also no single right or wrong solution, but an infinite number of possible solutions. And the solutions are so interconnected that applying one has consequences in all the others as well. And there are multiple scales and stakeholders with varying interests and goals, and they may not all agree. And they may not even all agree on the same problem. So since all natural and human systems can affect Earth's water and energy balances, climate change and water balances are a result of multiple integrated drivers. Management must therefore also be integrated. These problems have become increasingly wicked as resources have become increasingly more scarce. So now back to the book. In the midst of all this wickedness, what does this book offer? I've just said that climate change and increasingly water management are wicked problems. And wicked problems have an infinite number of potential solutions that can help lead us to an improved state anyway. Therefore, this book is not an attempt to solve climate change or provide overarching solutions or one overarching solution, or even a fully comprehensive set of solutions. It is designed to be a discussion composed of a number of separate chapters or papers that summarize current knowledge and experience and provide insight into the many different aspects of managing the current water and climate crises. By helping the reader consider many different aspects, it hopefully leads to further brainstorming on other components that may not be directly covered in the book. Some examples of major themes of the problem that are covered in the book are scale. Climate change problem is global, and in a connected world, water problems can also be considered global. Because of this, there are some components of solutions that can be implemented at international scale. So for instance, setting sustainable development goals and agreeing to climate change targets can be important global components of solutions. Defining goals and targets helps to reduce the complexity of the wicked problem and makes implementation easier by providing a tangible target, even when a stopping condition is really impossible to define, as I mentioned before. The first few chapters in the book deal with these global framework types of solutions. So sustainable development goals, integrated water resource management, and nexus frameworks that frame the problem and set the conditions for local solutions. However, most solutions must be implemented locally, where local data, knowledge, and capacity are critical for optimal solutions within the local context. For water, it makes the most sense to manage water at the basin scale, where water system feedbacks can be managed, but energy, economy, and other systems will be blended at other scales as well. Much of the rest of the book is taken up by examples of solution options within these local contexts. This also leads to one of the other main themes, and that's what was mentioned by Stefan, is the integrated management across sectors as well as across scales. Solving the problem will require collaboration across disciplines and economic sectors, from education and awareness raising to collecting and organizing knowledge, developing and implementing policies and management practices, and development of new products and technologies. The book highlights examples from different disciplines and sectors. There is no one solution that will work everywhere, but there will be common elements among solutions. And you will see this also in the pages of the book. And it will hopefully spur more thoughts about how we deal with all the interactions. I also do need to say that solving integrated problems locally like this requires collecting and compiling local information in a systematic way. The data that is collected needs to be widely accessible so that it can be incorporated into solutions across multiple scales and sectors. Data on the solutions and the parameters of the solutions and good practices must also be available as widely as possible. Data and information availability constraints are often a bottleneck and slow down progress on the implementation of solutions. Chapter 9 focuses specifically on data collection needed for SDG monitoring and accounting, but each of the other chapters references the types of evidence, information, or knowledge required to implement solutions. And unfortunately, much of this knowledge is not consistently compiled and made available for the further development and implementation of more integrated solutions. Okay, that's most of what I had to say. Just a few additional points I'd like to add. The book has examples from around the world, but a good concentration of those perspectives and solutions are coming from Asia, where large vulnerable populations live, but also where movement and progress is being made on managing the climate crisis. So there are many lessons that have been learned that can be shared. The book can have a large audience, from students looking to understand the breadth of the issues to professionals looking for inspiration and ideas for solving problems they face in their areas. And finally, on just a personal note, I'd personally very much like to thank Vishnu Pandey for being the real driving force for pulling this book together. I think great work. Vishnu, thank you from all of us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Weiberg, and to all of our book editors. So we also invited special guests to give a short message for this book launch event. Let me introduce our first guest. He is the Dean of the Institute of Engineering in Tribhuvan University in Nepal. Please welcome Professor Shashidhar Ram Joshi.
Thank you very much, Kim. President of AIT, Dr. Woon, keynote speaker, Professor Stefan, editor, guest, and all participants. I'd like to thank the organizing committee for inviting me in this webinar. Today is the auspicious day of World Environment Day. And I want to congratulate you for launching your book, Water, Climate Change, and Sustainability. I'd like to congratulate Professor Vishnu Prasad Pandey, Professor Sangam Shrestha, and Dr. David, and all other authors. I hope your book, it will be recognized by the researcher and the students worldwide, and I am hopeful of that. In this occasion, I am also feeling proud that one of the authors is from IOE, who is the Professor Pandey, and he is one of the young and energetic, and I can even say a dynamic professor in the Institute of Engineering. He became professor last year only, and he is exhibiting his dynamicness a lot, and that is very, very appreciable. So we like to see more and more efforts from Professor Pandey. So we, Institute of Engineering, we have MOU with more than 80 university worldwide, university and institution, and we want to extend our program. Recently, we have a MOU with Amazon, this web service academy also. And I'm also feeling very proud that our alumni from IOE, they are now professors in United States, Japan, and researcher in the reputed company worldwide. So finally, I want to thank you all again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Joshi. Now for our second guest. She is the Deputy Director of Stockholm Environment Institute, or SEI Asia in Bangkok. and she is also the Program Director of the Sustainable Mekong Research Network, or SummerNet. Let us welcome Dr. Shayanit Kritasultat Shiwa.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Professor Sangam and all organizing team for inviting me to join this book launch. It is my great pleasure and privilege to represent Stockholm Environment Institute, or SCI, an international research and policy organization with the mission to bridge science, policy, and practice, and also representing the Sustainable Mekong Research Network, or SummerNet, a regional research network focusing on delivering credible knowledge for sustainable development. So I think the focus of this book on water, climate change, and sustainability is really highly relevant to the work of SCI. And of course, it's really close to my heart because of the work in the past 20 years that I have been working on. So under the SummerNet for All program, SCI has been working with 300 network members for more than 100 organizations, including AIT, IWMI, and many other organizations trying to reduce water insecurity for all in the Mekong region. We are doing this through collaborative research, joint actions, policy engagement, and capacity building. I would say our aim, water professionals, always very ambitious. And because now, as you heard from the speakers, there's so many challenges related to climate change, development, and even other emerging issues like COVID pandemic, and or even the political unrest in many countries. I really think what we like to aim to help people using the knowledge that we produce are even more difficult. So today, I'm truly pleased to see that many prominent professors, researchers, and friends are really eager and willing to share your knowledge and experience on how to manage and develop water resources sustainably in the context of climate change. To increase the possibilities for new knowledge to be applied in practice in the society, I think this book has a very nice design in the way, because you could have several chapters talking about concepts. And then the next also talk about approach and tools, and lastly talk about how we could apply this kind of tools in practice for sustainability. And the last part especially have the sessions, the chapters on a stakeholder-centric tools for implementing water management strategy and enhancing water cooperation in the Lower Mekong regions, led by my former colleagues, Manish Chetra, and also other SCI team members. So I'm very pleased to be also in a team for that, and really looking forward to see how we could use the knowledge generated through these 2 or 3 years that you heard from the editor mentioned. This is really a lot of effort put behind us. Since the last point, I want to really ask for and make a request, especially to all authors for the book here. Since some policymakers and water managers practitioners who consider as a target user or readers of the book may not be able to access this book easily. So for the wider benefit to the public and other audience, I truly hope that the authors will spend a bit more time in communicating your research or findings for like positive impacts in other form, like maybe you wish to write blog or website articles, social media, and others. So really hope that many people will be able to really learn from this really important knowledge. And once again, let me congratulate to all people behind this book. You have produced important piece of the knowledge to the society. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Shayanis. For our next guest, he is the Deputy Director at Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I would like to thank him for waking up really early for this event. Please welcome Dr. Roshan Raj Shrestha.
Thank you so much. Happy World Environment Day, and very good morning here, and good afternoon and good evening wherever you are, and to all the participants of the Water, Climate Change and Sustainability book launching webinar. I feel very proud to see many of my close colleagues here, like Professor Sangam and many other colleagues with whom I have been working for several years. I'd like to congratulate the editors and all the authors for publishing this most relevant book to address current problem in water and food security due to climate change, as well as problem due to the poor governance, our ignorance, and lack of awareness. Although I have not read all the chapters of this book yet, I can feel that this value. In Bill and Melinda Foundation, Water Sanitation and Hygiene is one of the core programs which aims to enable widespread use of safely managed, sustainable sanitation service that contribute to positive health, economic, and gender equality outcome for the world's poorest. We are also collaborating with the government, development partners, academics, and private sectors towards climate change adaptation, especially on water, sanitation, and agriculture sectors, which contribute to water and food security. While quickly scanning this chapter, I noticed several interesting topics which are connected to our strategy. For example, we are deeply engaged in the localization of the global initiative, investing in innovations to address climate resilience, safely managed sanitation system, supporting in establishment of monitoring and accountability mechanism for inclusive sustainable service delivery of water and sanitation in low and middle income countries. This publication has addressed many practical solutions that we can also learn a lot for designing the right investment to address climate change. As you know, capacity building is one of the key pillars of our strategy. Excuse me. I will encourage all our capacity building partners to use this book in their academic and professional training program. Asian Institute Technology is one of our strategic partners for sanitation innovation and capacity building initiative since quite long time. I hope we can also expand our partnership to work on the climate change agenda in the near future. I wish you all very good interaction and knowledge sharing in this book launching webinar and look forward to seeing you soon in person. Congratulations once again to all and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shrestha. For our next guest, he is the Chief of Natural Sciences, United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, Bangkok office, Dr. Benno Boer. Unfortunately, Dr. Boer cannot join us in real time, but he sent a short message which will be played in the next few minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, water is a key component of ecosystems. It is a primary medium to manifest impacts of climate change across various sectors and a central theme for achieving the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. This book synthesizes the spirit by highlighting the three components and their interlinkages, by elaborating concepts, approaches, tools, and practices in the form of selected case studies. In the context that global efforts are being streamlined in achieving the SDGs by 2030, knowledge products like this are very useful to trigger further deepening knowledge, adopting learning from the past, and guiding sustainability practices. As the book sheds light on aspects such as localizing global initiatives, the nexus-based approach, enhancing water productivity, as well as rejuvenation of springs, climate actions, climate resilience, water securities, and ways of minimizing policy practice gaps, I sincerely believe that policymakers, practitioners, research scholars, and students of various disciplines will benefit from reading and using this book. I thank the editors for their appreciable efforts for releasing such a timely product, but pooling together an interdisciplinary team of specialized authors. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Boer. Finally, our last guest is the Head of Knowledge Management and Scientific Affairs and the Deputy Head of Development and Institutional Affairs, Asia Pacific Network for Global Change Research, Dr. Linda Ann Stevenson. Dr. Stevenson also cannot join us today, but we will play her video message.
Greetings to all participants here at the webinar launch of the Water, Climate Change and Sustainability book. It's my great pleasure to learn about the book's timely publication. I would like to take this opportunity to provide a hearty congratulations to the editors, Professor Sangam, Professor Vishnu, and Dr. David, and also to all of the authors for your great effort to generate the knowledge and add value to the body of literature. This book is perhaps the first of its kind that connects water management and climate change to sustainability issues. I would also like to take this opportunity to introduce the Asia Pacific Network for Global Change Research, otherwise known as APN. We are an intergovernmental network of 22 countries working towards an Asia Pacific region that is successfully addressing the challenges of global change and sustainability. I am delighted to see that many contents of the book are in line with APN's vision and mission. I very much look forward to working with all editors and authors in the future and take this opportunity to acknowledge our growing interaction. I wish you all a fruitful webinar and hope that it provides a great opportunity to strengthen our networking. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Stevenson. Again, thank you to all of our guests for those wonderful messages. And now we will hear key messages from lead or corresponding authors of each book chapter. For the first chapter, let me invite again Professor Vishnu Prasad Pandey from the Institute of Engineering, Tribhuvan University, Nepal.
Thank you, and hello again to everyone. This first chapter, I had the honor to lead this one, and it will focus on localizing and mainstreaming global initiatives on water, climate change, and sustainable development. This is an introductory chapter which deals with sustainability challenges, global initiatives, interdependency of SDGs with water, and various considerations for achieving the SDGs. This book addresses the sustainability challenges related to the limited resources within our planetary boundaries. It requires localization and mainstreaming of global initiative that is well articulated in this chapter. For example, SDGs, Paris Agreement, those kind of global initiatives need to be localized to really ensure the implementation at the local level. That's what we have articulated in the chapter. And consideration for achieving SDGs are also well discussed. For example, various programs, policies, and also need for streamlining those things or coherence policy across the sectors are discussed in the chapter. And also we highlighted the need for investment in technology and data, promote science policy interface, and capacity strengthening activities are one of the keys for achieving the sustainability. So it can be, finally, we argue that it can be achieved, or SDGs can be achieved only by localizing the SDGs effectively through various pathways. This kind of messages are in the chapter 1. When you have the time and you have access to the book, please consider going through in detail. Thank you.
Thank you again, Professor Pandey. For the second chapter, he is a senior water resources specialist in the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, or IGES, Japan. Please welcome Dr. Binaya Raj Shivakoti.
Thank you very much for your nice introduction. My name is Binay, and thank you for this opportunity. I am very happy to join all distinguished speakers and participants attending this today launch, coinciding World Environment Day. So let me directly jump into the key message. So this is about what in this chapter, what I have tried to do is to see like SDG and SDG 6 in particular, that's a water goal, and how we can implement this, considering this river basin approach. So as you know that SDG and including SDG 6 are complex and highly interlinked. So the answer is definitely that we need a coordinated approach. And if we review the SDG goal on water, it's indeed a very comprehensive goal that covers all issues related to water. And in one way or the other, and one of the things that important question is how we are going to implement this goal in a coordinated manner. So the main point I have tried to highlight is to bring out this already existing river basin management as a framework of integrated water resource management, taking the example of lower river Mekong River Basin, which has a well-established transboundary cooperation under the Mekong River Commission. Unlike other SDG, river basin approach could be an obvious and pragmatic entry point to co-implement SDG along with other SDG, given its over 60 years of legacy in terms of concept, policy, framework, and institutional setup at the various level. In fact, there is one target, 6.5 on integrated water resource management and transboundary cooperation, and many of the countries has done a very good progress in terms of implementation. And if you see, like this approach has been promoted at various levels, like donor, government, even at the local level, and project implementation. But what we are somehow forgetting is that still we see that SDG 6 is over-dominated by water and water supply and sanitation issue, I think, which is I think quite important. But I mean, if we were to achieve a sustainable development and sustainable water management, we have to co-address. And river basin approach could be a kind of a low-hanging option that is already available to us. So we need a kind of what we need, and what I would like to highlight through this chapter is we need concerted efforts and policy reorientation to rediscover the potential of river basin approach as a unit of SDG implementation, not only to address the immediate challenges, but also to achieve a long-term sustainability. Thank you. I'd like to stop here.
Thank you, Dr. Shivakoti. Now for the third chapter. He is an associate professor in Ohio State University, USA. Please welcome Dr. Ajay Shah.
Thank you, Kim. And I'd first like to thank the editors of the book for providing us the opportunity to write the chapter focused on bio-based systems and its interaction with different sustainability development goals. Basically, it initiated with the interaction with Dr. Pandey when I was in Nepal. So we had the conversation and we thought, okay, how about presenting something on bio-based systems? So first, I would also like to briefly acknowledge that all the authors of the chapters are my PhD students or the postdocs. And they put like most of the effort on pulling this book chapter together. So basically, I would like to provide very high level overview of bio-based systems, which, so when we say bio-based systems, or the way we have defined bio-based systems for this chapter is, it's anything that from the agricultural crop production through its conversion to different end products, basically in terms of energy products, bioenergy products. So, which comprises of like agricultural production, its logistics, harvest, conversion, and ultimate utilization. So, after looking into more closely and trying to see it, it interfaces with basically directly interacts with 4 of the sustainability development goals. Related to water, energy. So in this chapter, what we have tried to do is to try to show the interactions of the bio-based system with different SDGs, and then did some analysis of like on what kind of impact it has on the water and the energy systems. And then some of the findings were like production, agricultural production, or the feedstock production for the conversion into end products are the most water as well as energy intensive processes. And then we have introduced or basically summarized like different sustainability assessment tools that are relevant to analyzing the sustainability of different agricultural as well as the integrated bio-based systems. And life cycle assessment is one of the key tools that has been most popularly and widely used for assessing the sustainability. With this, I would like to stop here, and happy World Environment Day to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shah. For the 4th chapter, He is a senior lecturer from IHE Delft Institute for Water Education, the Netherlands. Please welcome Dr. Peter Koeki.
Happy World Environment Day to everyone. I would also like to appreciate the contribution of my professor in AIT, because I also am an alumni of AIT. I work with Professor Tamarat. Actually, this concept came from our book, Regenerative Sanitation. And also to appreciate Dr. Roshan, because he was in the course of working in the non-sewer sanitation MSc program in IHE that we were talking about emergency sanitation. And I felt that we can actually make our sanitation system resilient so that it will be less vulnerable to emergency and due to climate change. And I also come from Nigeria. I'm from the Delta, and my hometown is an island, Opopo town, at the middle of Atlantic. So you can appreciate why I take this concept more emotional and more personal, because, and also working in Thailand, experiencing the flood of 2011 also gave me another impetus to think about how we can make our sanitation system resilient. And so one of the things we have been trying to do at the MSc program, sanitation in IHE, which of course now is all over the world now, courtesy of the Bill and Gates Foundation, is to see how we can begin to teach the young sanitation expert how to retool and introduce resilience to our various sanitation systems, so that even though they could be safely managed, but they are not shock-proof to incident of climate change. So the idea behind here is that if our sanitation systems are resilient in terms of being integrated and integrative in nature, we can look at, then we will begin to design a system that are socio-ecological system proof, and also the technology then can be able to withstand the various vulnerability in the climate. And then one of the advantage, of course, resilience is also a very important point. One of the advantage of this tool is that previous authors on sanitation emergency or systems that are climate proof have not come up with tools on how this can be designed and integrated into new technology. So but what we did was to go a step further, not just acknowledging the fact that resilient systems for sanitation are important, but how to do it. So this is what we're able to contribute on, how to go about imputing resilient systems into new designs, and even also retrofitting existing sanitation system. Of course, you are quite familiar with the work of Tamarat in the solar power, septic tank, the cyclone flow, and all those systems. So we are trying to see how we can now retool these systems to be resilient and able to stand the climate challenges, and also to teach our students, especially the current programs students, on how we can look at, when you're looking at sanitation system, you look at it from integrated and adaptive whole, as a whole system, not trying to, solve one side of the problem, then opening the other side to another challenges. So this is what we would like to contribute, and we welcome that readers go to these chapters, and we would like to get your feedback, and then also see how we can begin to retool some of our sanitation infrastructure. Thank you from Nigeria, Port Harcourt.
Thank you, Dr. Koeki. Now for the 5th chapter, she is an associate professor in the Center for Environmental Management, University of Free State, South Africa. Please welcome Dr. Olusola Shola Ololade.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today. And I want to thank the editors for inviting me to be part of this book. Actually, this is the second book that I'll be writing, that Professor Pandey is the editor. So I think it's a long time association, though we've never met before. So I'm really glad to see him physically, though it's on Zoom. Hopefully one day we'll meet personally. I also want to acknowledge my co-authors on this chapter. One is my former PhD student, and also my colleague in my Center for Environmental Management. Basically, in this chapter, we try to look at the different approaches and tools that have been used in water climate sustainability nexus research and projects. So we decided to review journal articles and book chapters that were published and listed in Scopus. And we'll look at the different tools and approaches that they use in those research. And we were able to see that the water climate sustainability nexus is actually well aligned with the IWRM concept. That is the integrated water resources management concept. And the reason being that both of these concepts actually focus on environmental protection, economic development, and also addressing social issues. We also found out that the water climate sustainability nexus research actually originated from the engineering discipline, actually from the 1970s. But actually it has evolved over the past 3 decades to become really more interdisciplinary and multi-sectoral as well. And we also found out that because the issues of the water climate sustainability nexus is very complex, hence the need for different disciplines to contribute to formulate a tool and approach to be able to make water truly sustainable. We found out that in terms of scale, most of the studies are actually conducted at the catchment level, especially in areas where that is experiencing water scarcity. And especially here in South Africa, which is a semi-arid areas, another part of some part of southern Africa as well. We find out finally that there's no one-fit-all approach in terms of the kind of tools and approach that you want to use in this kind of research, and it's actually context-specific as well. So in essence, you can't say what you use in America is actually going to work in South Africa. So you have to be able to see what really works for the kind of situation or the kind of problem that you want to solve. And this means that there must be collaboration across sectors. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Ololade. For the 6th chapter, he is the founder, trustee, and Executive Director at Advanced Center for Water Resources Development and Management, or Aquadam in India. Please welcome Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni. Again, let us welcome Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni. Seems like he's not available. So for the 7th chapter, he is a researcher in the field of water resources, agricultural water management for the International Water Management Institute, or IWMI, India. Please welcome Mr. Muhammad Faiz Alam.
Thanks a lot, and a happy World Environment Day to everyone. Thanks to the editors for inviting us to write this chapter, and all my co-authors who contributed significantly in the writing of this chapter. In this chapter, we basically overview the current knowledge and synthesize current knowledge on the water productivity we have, how increasing water productivity is essential to manage the conflicts that will arise from the competition in water resources as we go forward. The impact of climate change is felt more acutely and globally. And we showcase that from the view that if there's already a plethora or a wide evidence from the number of studies that show that increasing water productivity globally can feed as much as 110 million people and meet a domestic need of more than 1 billion people in the already rain-fed regions. So basically, without expanding land, we can meet the requirement of these many people. And in doing so, increasing water productivity directly or indirectly will contribute to number of SDG goals, to precisely 12 SDG goal and 43 SDG targets. And these targets and these goals specifically about zero hunger and clean water and sanitation. If we increase water productivity, we will eventually be able to contribute to meeting these goals, where the target is that we need to meet them by 2030. And already globally and in the developing countries, there is a range of agriculture water management interventions that have been implemented enough in the last couple of decades. So we already have enough evidence about the applicability, about the benefits, about their cost. So there is no need to reinvent the wheel. So we already have that much of knowledge. What we need is the enabling policy and environment, and that is critical because first what we need is that these agriculture water management interventions we implement, they need to be sustainable. They need to sustain financially, environmentally, and then critically they need to be equitable. They need to reach poor and the rich at the same level. The large landholders and the small landholders, they need to reach them equitably. And for them, we need enabling policies in institutions which at the current time in many places are lacking. And other than that, there are the increasing threats like climate change, weather extremes, of course, the COVID that we are currently seeing, the natural resource degradation, and the socio-economic constraints that the farmers feel, especially especially smallholder farmers, that threatens the game, but also that we have made till now, but also kinds of limits the further adoption of these practices. So this chapter basically goes through all these parts, and I invite you to read this chapter, also the other chapter in the book, to basically critically evaluate so that we can take the next step, that is basically upscaling the adoption of these agriculture water management interventions to increase the physical productivity of the farmland, which will eventually benefit not just the water part, but I think a 12 SDG goal and 43 SDG targets. And thank you. With this, I end and invite you to read the chapter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alam. For the 8th chapter, she is a senior environmental scientist in California Department of Water Resources, Dr. Shinshin Liu. Unfortunately, she also cannot join us today, but we will play her video message.
Thank you, Uchu, for inviting me to share the key points in chapter 8. In this chapter, I connect local water agency climate action in California with sustainable development goals from the United Nations. 3 water agencies were selected in the case study. For example, state water projects have addressed water energy climate issue for carbon neutrality by 2045. And Sonoma County Water Agency in Northern California have developed carbon-free water system in 2015. In Southern California, San Diego Water Authority have developed climate action plan to address water energy use and GHG emission reporting issues. And also I developed the point to discuss the challenge and the lessons learned in this chapter. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Liu. For the 9th chapter, she is the head of International and Innovation Program in International Reference Center, or IRC, The Hague in the Netherlands, Dr. Caterina Fonseca. Similarly, she also prepared a short video message as she cannot attend today's event.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Caterina Fonseca, and it's a pleasure to be here at the launch of this book. I have co-written chapter 9 with Laura van der Laan, entitled Monitoring Accountability Frameworks for SDG 6, the Role of Civil Society Organizations. So several chapters of the book focus on the types of information that need to be collected to understand the status of the SDG 6 targets and to inform policies, regulations, and monitoring those targets. However, because the SDGs are not legally binding, without formal accountability mechanisms in many countries, this means that many of the government commitments to SDG 6 are not turned into reality. So this chapter focused specifically on a review of accountability mechanisms across 25 countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And the main conclusion is that actually little awareness on SDG 6 by a range of stakeholders, as well on the need for implementing specific monitoring processes to track the achievements of the targets. So the first step is therefore for governments to assign clear roles, clear responsibilities in implementation and monitoring of SDG 6, or whatever, how those SDG 6 have been translated into country targets. And in parallel, it's really important to also increase the level of awareness among the public, among civil society organizations on the Sustainable Development Goal 6, with more transparency and sharing information by the government. We have seen where civil society is working together with the government, monitoring and tracking data and discussing progress, and that in turn influences the budgets and the directions of the sector. That's where we are seeing progress. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the book. Goodbye.
Thank you, Dr. Fonseca. For the 10th chapter, he is currently based in Australia and holds the position of Emeritus Professor in the Water Engineering and Management in the Asian Institute of Technology. Please welcome Professor Ashim Das Gupta.
Thank you.
Professor Das Gupta.
Okay, thank you very much. This paper deals with how to translate research, policy, and practice into policy and practice, and deals with the challenges and opportunities, and to what extent it has been possible to do that. It is quite questionable. So this looks into various options which could be used in bringing in the process of translating research to policy and practice. And long-term objectives would be to forge partnerships of institutions of higher education with the governments and communities in order to address the emerging issues and challenges. And the institutions of higher learning should then take a leading role in forging this partnership. So I would like to request all the researchers to read these articles and should be in a position to institute some sort of collaborative effort with the government authorities as well as the communities concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Das Gupta. For the 11th chapter, he is a senior coordinator for water and environment in the National Institute of Urban Affairs, New Delhi, India. Please welcome Mr. Lovlesh Sharma.
Yeah, hello everyone. Warm greeting from New Delhi. From my side and my lead co-author, Dr. Victor's side. He could not join due to some parallel commitments today. But first of all, happy Environment Day to all, and also congratulations to their editors for another milestone and release of this particular book. This particular chapter talks about the poverty alleviation, and as we know, water is elixir for the life. But we strongly tried to build this case of how water infrastructure can directly improve the economical condition of a household per se. And for that we have tried to inculcate the cases, successful cases across the world as case studies, and this also outlines the statistical evidences from these cases. And there are a number of cases which really are talking in terms of, as we know, petrochemical abundance, mineral abundance makes that particular region rich. But if water abundance is smartly taken care of, if the water supply and the infrastructure robustly provided, how this particular attempt can enrich a particular community, a person, or directly to the household. So poverty alleviation directly through the robust water infrastructure, that was the target we were trying to address from this. And yes, taking the cases from different cities like Nagpur city in India, the quality of water supply has actually increased the quality of life, because people were of this community were traveling for 2 to 3 or 4 kilometers and 2 to 3 hours per day, twice in a day or thrice in a day, they used to spend. And once this robust water infrastructure is provided, the hours invested, the man hours invested, travel distance reduced to 0, and that enhances the quality of life. Similarly, we have taken cases of Tulip, Jordan, where livelihood possibilities are improved due to water infrastructure. Case of Surat, a flood resilient infrastructure actually has saved millions of dollars. Also, importantly, the livelihood of the citizens in the Surat city of India. And also we have taken a case of Surat, where Syria, where economical productivity through wastewater in terms of the agricultural enhancement has improved the case of the farmers precisely. And this is how we try to establish the fact of poverty alleviation and water infrastructure together through this chapter. We request whosoever actually like the idea may go for further. Book is already launched and can benefit from the chapter. And we would love to hear from most of you, your comments, suggestions, and blessings in this case. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. For the 12th chapter, he is the Deputy Director at the headquarters in the government of Punjab Agriculture Department in Lahore, Pakistan. Please welcome Mr. Hafiz Kaisar Yassin.
Thank you very much. Hello everyone from Pakistan. Happy Environment Day to everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you, the editors and the organizers, for giving me an opportunity to present my chapter on a very important day. As you may all know, this is very important day for Pakistan, as due to great efforts Pakistan has put up for climate and sustainability. Pakistan has been honored to hosting this year's UN Environment Day. So let's come to the chapter 12. So chapter 12 is all about technological transformation in the agriculture sector in Pakistan to transform this sector into a climate resilient and sustainable sector. In Pakistan, we know irrigation is very important, is a very key for economic growth, as over 90% of the available water is used in the agriculture sector. So there has been no diversification and no technological transformation for the last so many years. So during the last decade, there has been some transformation in technology, in irrigation technology. High efficiency irrigation technologies have been introduced in Pakistan's agriculture to transform this sector into a climate smart, sustainable, diversified and efficient sector, and to improve the water productivity. These systems still are new and challenging in Pakistan because they have been introduced for the first time on farmers' field. And as far as the impact of these technologies are concerned, these are enormous in terms of water saving, in terms of reduction of input use and the economic returns. So based on the field results, we can say there are promising results of these technologies. And this technology has all the ingredients to transform this Pakistan's agriculture into a climate smart and sustainable sector. However, we think this is the beginning, and for the large scale promotion of these technologies, we need a big push from the leadership and from the government side, but through an integrated approach and efforts from all stakeholders, especially from the researchers and the private sectors, for sustainable and successful technology transfer to the farmers according to their local needs. So at the end, thank you very much. I would like to congratulate the whole team and the editors for a great contribution towards climate change and sustainability. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yassin. For the 13th chapter, he is a civil engineer specializing in irrigation and water resources in Aqualink Research Limited, New Zealand. Please welcome Dr. Birendra Casey.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm feeling glad to be here to present or to share some findings of our research. Before I begin, I would like to thank to the organizing team for this opportunity. And also, I would like to acknowledge all co-authors of our paper. As we know, irrigation scheduling that is based on crop coefficient, that is purple crop coefficient, and soil moisture monitor at different location on the farm, and irrigation scheduling that accounts per soil moisture level to start and stop irrigation can help to improve irrigation efficiency. However, in New Zealand, most common irrigation scheduling is based on constant crop coefficient of 1, soil moisture monitored at one location, and irrigation scheduling does not account properly threshold soil moisture level to start and stop irrigation. So in this research, we try to address those issues. Our research shows that crop coefficient changes linearly with grazing rotation. That means irrigation scheduling based on constant crop coefficient of 1 cannot address dynamic crop water requirement. Soil moisture changes even within 1 meter. So irrigation planning that is based on soil moisture monitored at one location cannot address different crop water requirement across the farm. And irrigation that triggers at different level of soil moisture level has significant impact on drainage. So irrigation should start and stop at a specific soil moisture level. So irrigation scheduling that incorporates variable crop coefficient that is based on different grazing stage or growth stage, and that accounts soil moisture monitored at different locations on the farm, and irrigation start and stop at a specific soil moisture level can help to save 10% irrigation water compared to conventional irrigation planning. And proposed irrigation scheduling can contribute to conserve water and decrease water pollution by reducing nutrient leaching from pastoral farm to the water resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Casey. For the 14th chapter, she is an associate professor of water resources and quality at University of Rhode Island, USA. Please welcome Dr. Soni M. Pradhanang.
Hi, everyone. What a great day to have this book launch event. This book is all about environment, and happy Environment Day to all my friends and colleagues around the world. I want to thank my co-author, Khurshid Jahan, who is going to be soon graduating, who's going to be soon finishing her PhD from my lab. I want to thank editors and publishers for providing me with this opportunity. So talking about this chapter, our chapter focuses on water issues that are central to urban water. The title of the chapter is Urban Water Security of Sustainable Cities in the Context of Climate Change. Now, we summed it as water insecurity because urban water issues are massive, they're dynamic, and they're challenging. And so what we did is we identified drivers. I mean, the case study presented is for Dhaka, Bangladesh, but the implication is global. The drivers that we identified, conceptual framework that we provided could be applied everywhere. So we identified development-focused drivers that are welfare, equity, sustainability, and risk. And we also linked that and the interdependency of these drivers to the impact that could be environmental and societal. And then we came up with a proposition here where the conceptual framework would be applied. And in doing so, it is important for us to do multi-criteria analysis of problems with different scenarios, which could be applied to many kind of situations, of course. And when we have these different scenarios done through multi-criteria analysis, it's, we'll have multiple options of which we can pick the best water management option and we could plan accordingly for the long-term management and security of this valuable resources. Thank you. Happy Environment Day again.
Thank you, Dr. Pradhana. Now for the 15th chapter, he is an evaluation, ecosystems, and climate services and agricultural innovations specialist based in Nepal. Please welcome Dr. Ram Chandra Kanal.
Happy World Environment Day. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for giving this opportunity to share our findings of our paper. We feel actually privileged to be part of this important publication. Now, let me briefly share the main finding of our paper written jointly by Dr. Prachanda Pradhan and myself. The main area of the study is on the nexus between the water, food security in the changing climatic context. As we know, the climate change and variability has direct negative impact on the irrigation system and food security. This paper briefly reviews the food security status in Nepal, how climate change has impacted in small scale irrigation systems, and most importantly, what would be the climate resilient approaches and strategies. Some of the main findings and key messages are: the study found that the climate change impact on irrigation systems in two ways, that is the effect on the water availability as well as in the water requirement. Then we explore how could be the area where we can make our irrigation system climate resilient. And from our study, we found three important areas where we need to contribute. The first one is irrigation systems. Within irrigation systems, how to modify the irrigation systems, how to maintain the flexibility within the irrigation systems, what are the alternative sources of water, and how can we use the basin approach or the ecosystem approach to make the irrigation system resilient. Now, the second aspect is the institutions. This is about how we can make the decision-making process, and that includes the right to water, or how we can resolve the disputes, and how we get the informations related to water. And the third one is very, very important. It is about the actors and agent, and how we can make the actors and agent their capacity be enhanced so that they can absorb the shocks, adapt the new situations, mobilize the resources, anticipate the plan for the current and the future situations. The basic learning how we can make the climate resilient is until and unless we actually do it in iterative process, considering the evidence-based risk analysis, and actually using the climate resilience approaches, including the adaptation and mitigation measures, and learn for the future improvement, then we can only make our irrigation systems climate resilience. I think this is all from our side, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Kanal. Now down to our last chapter. He was a research associate in Stockholm Environment Institute, or SEI, Asia Regional Office in Bangkok, and is currently a hydrologist in the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, or ECMOD, in Nepal. Please welcome Mr. Manish Shrestha. Can you unmute your microphone, Mr. Shrestha? We cannot hear you right now. Let me go back to the sixth chapter. Oh, sorry. Sorry, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
You now.
Okay.
Hear you now.
Thank you, editor, co-authors, and organizer for this opportunity. I am Manish from Easymode. So basically, this chapter describes how we develop a tool in collaboration with the river basin stakeholders for robust decision making under various uncertainties like climate change or land use change. So with a projected 2.4 billion increase in world population, especially in the Asian countries, so there's no doubt that the competition for the limited water resources will increase. So IWMI is a concept that is effective for managing these resources sustainably. We developed a web-based platform called Supporting Water Resource Management, SWAM in short, which act as a part decision support tool and a part game, something like a video game. So both the technical and the non-technical stakeholders can be involved in decision-making together. So the tool uses a hydrological model called WEAP, which is set up in consultation with our partners, incorporating different uncertainties, present and future infrastructures in the basin planning that they have, and some possible strategies for sustainable water use. We had collaborated with stakeholders from Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam, and we worked in 4 basins of Mekong using 2 participatory framework, the robust decision support framework and the service planning approach. And we co-developed this tool. Thank you and happy World Environment Day to all. If you have any further question, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Shasta. Let me introduce once again the 6th chapter author. He is the founder, trustee, and executive director at Advanced Center for Water Resources Development and Management, or Aquadam in India. Please welcome Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni.
A very good evening to all of you, and apologies for being late to the meeting. First of all, let me thank the editors for bringing out such a wonderful publication. I would also like to thank my co-authors Jayesh Desai and Imran Muhammad Siddiqui for the efforts that they put in to compile this document. I believe this document stems from a lot of our work, the work that my organization does, Aquadam, Advanced Center for Water Resources Development and Management, the work that we do on groundwater in particular, and on mitigating some of the groundwater crisis, largely in India, but also in other neighboring regions of India. And one of the problems that we encountered during our journey during the last 20 to 23 years has been the depletion of springs. I think the effort that we've made in this particular chapter is to look at 3 or 4 very key elements in understanding the problem and in sort of addressing the question of depleting springs. The first is, I think there's a very strong relationship between climate change and mountain water. And it's essentially because of the fragility of life, livelihoods on one hand, and the sort of very interesting but fragile, often uncertain balance between sort of human living, society, and natural systems. And I think we've tried to cast the question of depletion of springs in this context. On the one hand, highlighting the large dependencies on spring water and the ignorance, largely on the science part, in understanding the context of depleting springs and the resultant impact of depleting springs. So I think what we've tried to do in this chapter is bring the larger aquifer context, which again is a sort of is an experience that we gained on the way, that we realized that not much is thought in terms of mountain aquifers. So if one brings the context of mountain aquifers into the understanding of spring depletion, understanding of spring behavior, and sort of therefore, that's how the concept of springshade management took shape. It also offers a transdisciplinary approach to the revival, restoration, and governance of spring water in the mountains. And I think the last 2 points I'd like to make on this is I think we've tried in this chapter to compile a lot of experience that we gained through a cooperative, collaborative process on springshade management, which brings in a multidisciplinary perspective to the protection of spring water and also to the revival of springs. And the second point I'd like to make is very often a lot of efforts in India and in the subcontinent are through a policy instrument, where policies are laid down and then programs are tied to policy. Now, this particular experience is unique because this is actually a grassroots level initiative which started bottom up, and that's how policy took notice of this whole exercise. And therefore, to end with, I'd like to thank all the partners that were involved in this effort, all the people that we partnered with on the ground in the policy space. And in sum total, this chapter is a summary of this entire process, a summary of this entire experience. Thank you very much to the editors for giving us the opportunity to publish this. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Dr. Kulkarni. Thank you to all the lead chapter authors for your contribution and for sharing key messages. We can take this opportunity now to discuss some of the questions that you may have. Please feel free to raise your hand and ask questions.
Thank you, Kim. I think we do not have adequate time to discuss a lot, but we still can invite a couple of quick questions or even remarks for the World Environment Day from the distinguished participants. Please feel free to unmute yourself and speak it out. Any questions or any remarks or whatever it is, if you would like to share with us. So if there are not, yes, Dr. Himanshu, please, please.
Yeah, thanks, Vishnu. I forgot because it has nothing to sort of do with the chapter that we wrote, but I think more in terms of the overall publication. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity for me to say this, but I think the sort of spectrum of issues that you've brought out through this book, water, climate, sustainability, and I think hidden somewhere, across many of the chapters is the issue of social equity. And I think it's important for me to say this because I think hidden in the veneers of the larger sustainability issues are, perhaps the most important issue for us at the turn of time over here is the question of equity. And I think the question of equity is addressed through a variety of ways in this particular publication. So I thought I'd sort of highlight that because that is going to be the biggest challenge going ahead in times to come. So thanks for bringing out that. And I think it's a message that I would certainly like to carry with me.
Thank you, Dr. Himanshu. Thank you so much. I think there are a couple of hands raised. I'm not sure. Dr. Chayanis, yes, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Vishnu. So my questions, I would like to ask the authors or any of the authors of this book, because now, like not only us here, but all over the world facing with the challenge from the COVID pandemic. And this is really new to all of us. And I know that because of the book, themselves, I mean, itself start from 2018. At that time, we don't have the COVID yet. But I just want to ask if any insight that from your work, your research or experience dealing with the climate change or other type of uncertainties, do you see any insights of how we are in the water professional dealing with the climate change or other uncertainties could use that experience to adapt or help guiding the societies on how we should do or we should adapt to this new normal? So if anyone want to share your brief thought on this, I think that will be useful for us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Chinese, bringing the very important issue, but I'm not sure in the interest of time, I don't know, we would be able to invite it, but always we will connect you all, and perhaps like Professor Shangam mentioned also in the chat box, Dr. Chinese has offered to publish some blogs, right? So the authors may connect with you later on. So that's really a great opportunity to go beyond the researchers and share our knowledge in the benefit of the larger society. Thank you. I've seen several hand raised, but in the interest of time, my apology that I would not be able to catch it up. Now, I would like to, on behalf of all the organizers, I would like to thank you all the participants for joining this event today. Especially, we are very pleased to see all the authors with whom we are working for the last 3 years, but had not got an opportunity to see and speak. I mean, of course, via email, but not personally, but it was an opportunity. We greatly appreciate their sincere and hard work throughout the process. Compared to earlier book project, it took a longer time, but thank you so much for bearing with us. Also, we'd like to thank AIT President for being with us in the form and sharing your remarks. Keynote speaker, Professor Stefan, for being with us and sharing very, very valuable thoughts in the form of keynote. And all other guests like Dean of Institute of Engineering, Tribhuvan University in Nepal, Professor Shashidhar Joshi, sir, and Dr. Chinese from Stockholm Environment Institute. Thank you so much. Dr. Roshan from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Dr. Beno from UNESCO, Dr. Linda from APM, though they were not able to join physically, but they were kind enough to share their message virtually. We highly appreciate it. Also, personally, sincere thanks to all the organizations, organizing committee, organizing institutions like Asian Institute of Technology, Institute of Engineering, Tribhuvan University, International Water Management Institute, CGIAR Research Program on Water, Land and Ecosystem, WLE, and several other institutions who participated today and contributed in this initiative or joined hand to celebrate World Environment Day together. We really appreciate it. And the last but not least, since great appreciation to our MC, Kim, for handling it very flawlessly. We really appreciate it. And AIT colleagues, Saurabh, Subhas, and entire technical team in AIT for their great work and hard work and preparation and supporting in all possible ways for a smooth running of this event. Finally, like said by AIT President, it's not the end of the journey. Of course, we completed one book project and try to meet all of you together. This will certainly may start another round of collaboration in the future. We are very open for the collaboration in area of mutual interest. Of course, that may initiate in the future. Once again, happy World Environment Day to you all, and take care, stay safe, and have a nice weekend ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Pandey. And this officially closes the book launching webinar and World Environment Day celebration. I would like to thank everyone for listening and spending your time with us in this special day. Please be safe and enjoy the rest of your day or evening. Goodbye.
Bye.